So today I'm going to be taking you through the process of how I'm going to turn these wood splices into some beautiful cake holders. So the first step is to sand these bad boys down. So I'm going to be using an electric sander for this project. I don't sand things by hand because it just takes way too much time, and yeah, it's just easier to do this. So let's get started. We want to first just sand down a layer of the wood just to get it nice and smooth before we're about to seal it with our resin. So here's the difference of the wooden slab that has been fully sanded down as opposed to the other slab that I have not yet sanded. And the reason that you want to sand your slab is to minimize the risk of air bubbles before you resin your piece. So when you have a smooth surface to work with, it's much easier to seal it, and it just makes for an easier surface to work on in general. So here I'm just taking some painter's tape and I'm going into the cracks of the slabs so that the resin doesn't really get caught in the cracks, because that would just be a mess. It would be super hard to clean up. So I'm just trying to avoid that and leave some tape hanging on the edges so that it's easier to pull out afterwards. This is a Canadian brand and I really love it. It is awesome for top coats. I wouldn't use it for projects where you actually want to mix the resin with pigments and do some sort of artwork like I'm going to be doing later on in this video. I would only use this brand for top coats because the working time with this brand is not as long as art resin, for example. I think this brand maybe gives you like a working time of, I'd like to say maybe half an hour, maybe not even. After that point, it starts to harden, the resin starts to cure, and then you can no longer really work with it or move it around. So here I'm just going in with my torch to blow any air bubbles that we may have. If there are one or two, that's okay, because you're going to be going over it again with your resin later on. So here I have my pigment pastes. I have a gold and a white, and I'll be linking these down in the description below. This was actually my first time using these pastes. I really like them actually, and you'll get to see the results that it produced later on in the video. And here I also have my art resin. So this is the resin that I mentioned has a longer working time, and I like to use these for crafts and things like that, and art projects where I'm mixing colors with the resin, just because I don't feel that I have to rush on my project. I don't feel like the resin is going to start to cure as I'm working on my project. So that's a plus for the art resin. The bigger downside of it is that it is a lot more expensive. So I'm just creating another little base with the resin here so that once I put down my colors, they have an easier time moving around. So the client that had requested this decorative cake board wanted something with golds and whites, so I thought to just go in with the gold and the white and layer them to create some sort of lacing effect. And I'm just going in with my heat gun. This is a heat gun that I bought off of Amazon. It's nothing fancy. It only has one heat setting, which blows extremely hot air out, so just be careful of that. Don't burn yourself. But yeah, this is actually pretty good for projects like this because it moves the resin around pretty well. The only thing I would say about this particular heat gun is that it has a really short cord, so I would just keep an extension cord on hand if you plan on buying this exact same one. And now I'm just going in with the white acrylic paint, which is a lot more opaque, and I just wanted to add this to add a little bit more contrast because I was seeing that the pigment paste that I was using first was a little bit translucent, so I just wanted to create a better contrast with this one. However, the acrylic paint will not give you the same lacing effect that the pigment paste does, so that is something to keep in mind. I will link this exact pigment paste in the description below. Both pastes that I used in this video are by Resin Expressions. So this was my first time using this brand, and I really like the results of this cake board, so I will be using these pastes in future projects. I would just say that the gold wasn't as vibrant as I hoped it would be. I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest. It's not that there was anything wrong with it at all. I just kind of wanted a more bold, more metallic look. So actually what I ended up doing is taking my brass alcohol ink and I added it to the pigment paste just to make it more metallic, and I actually really liked the effect that it gave me, so I went ahead and added another layer of that gold. So one of the issues that I was having was that the resin was slipping off of the sides of the wooden slab, and you just want to be careful of this because it's really hard to tape the sides of the slabs if they're left natural. Yeah, like it's not a regular wooden canvas where you can really press the tape down. So even if you were to tape the sides, the resin will get in the creases. So I just suggest that if you are going to work on a wooden slab like this, to really try and keep the resin on top, because once it slides off of the sides, it's just kind of going to keep pulling. So this is just something that you want to be mindful of in this project, but not to worry if you have some isopropyl alcohol, keep that on hand because resin comes right off with that. So when the resin is still wet and it's not fully cured, you can just take a paper towel, pour some isopropyl alcohol and wipe off any resin in areas that you don't want it to be in. And here are the finished cake boards. Please let me know what you guys think. This was my first time doing a project like this, and I must say I actually really enjoyed it and honestly really loved it. If you can see in the close-ups, the lacing from the white was just amazing. So I definitely will be working with this paste in the future on other projects and definitely in top coat, so stay tuned for that. And if you want to see what I added to these boards, stay tuned for the bonus content at the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you next time.